There it is, man. Welcome back.
Ah,
Good to see you.
yeah, good to be back. How you been?
Another week, man. You know how it is. Every day is a new day, man. It's just new day, new problem, new solution. That's how it is, man.
Yeah, you just gotta. It's so cliche. It's live in the moment, right? It's so cliche, but as I go through my philosophical philosoph. Oh my God, I can't even speak today. I can't even speak.
Um,
But my philosophy
yeah,
path, the more I realize, is the future is all part of our imagination. The past has already happened, and what we remember is the memories. So really only the real true moment is what we have right now.
yeah,
And that's the most important thing. Like I tell people all the time, like what's important is this right now. Me and you talking.
yeah.
Not anything else, not anything, and not what I'm doing in 2 hours. It's our conversation right now. And that's what I perceive as living in the moment.
Mm. I think, especially when you don't want to be in the moment, right? And and because you can't help if you're not dead, you're living, right? So if you're you have to be in the moment, even if you don't want to be. And I know that that could be tough for people who have like mental health problems, right? Like depression, for example. It's very hard to live in the moment, because the moment is like death, for a lot of people. It's excruciating.
And some
Um,
people choose death.
yeah, exactly, man. That's why some people just choose to die rather than to be in that moment, right? Um, Well, it's funny you asked how my week was going, and I'm not gonna lie, earlier this week, I would say Tuesday, Wednesday specifically, um, you have those moments where you're just numb. You just don't feel anything, like nothing, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just you nothing. You don't want to do any. Your mind is just cloudy, man. It can't formulate a thought. It can't formulate a plan. Your body has
Mhm.
trouble moving. You know. Um, But I think that being said, those are the moments where being present is probably the most important, because that's the only way you'll be able to understand what your reality is and where you are in this reality. You are in that moment almost beside yourself, like your soul and your body are two different things at that moment. And to then harmonize them, to get them to be working together takes immense, immense, immense concentration, and kind of like in strength, right? Um, I think over the years, as myself and probably other men and women out there have realized, when you have these very debilitating moments of just frozenness, of just being frozen, it takes hopefully you get a little stronger each time it happens so that you're not frozen for as long as you were before. So depending on the episode or the moment, sometimes that moment could be a day, sometimes it could be a week, sometimes it could be 6 months or a year for some people, right? And I think it's strong for people to get themselves out of that, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy, man, because you have to pretty much change a lot of things internally and externally to keep yourself from getting there again. So for me, it was quick. It was a day. It was just a day, right? It's all I needed, right? But in that day, you gotta look at yourself, man, and really be like, why is this happening, right? And if you don't have the answer, then you got to figure out how how I can get the answer, how I can get out of this, right? And that's not easy. I'm sure we've all been there at one point, right? We've all been there where we have to just find it in our bodies, our inner strength to release just some sort of energy, some sort of life, out of our bodies, out of our soul, and to harmonize them. That's tough, man. You know, that's really hard, especially for some people. So shout out to people who are struggling out there, man, because It's not, I know y'all are hurting, man. I know y'all are mustering up every bit of strength you can.
Well, like always, I have like 13 things to say.
Let's go
I'll
right
go
down
with
the list.
I'll go with the first thing that the last thing that came to mind. It was I know the blur was happening to me too. That's why I didn't have any blur. It was man, it was annoying. Anyways, you talked about struggle and struggle struggle is part of the human experience. And I think because we all suffer, that's a great uniter for all of us as
Mhm.
well. So we always, at least when I was in my 20s, uh, I had the unconscious belief that it was my unique experience. Like everything that was happening to me was only happening to me, so I couldn't reach out to anyone and talk to anyone. But as I grow older, I become more conscious and thus unconscious of the idea that just we are all suffering together. And with that suffering and that human experience, we're able to empathize with other people. We understand what people are going through. And that's why even there was this great interview by Stephen Colbert and Anderson Cooper. And Stephen Colbert uh, talks about how I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was to be grateful about the thing you wish least didn't happen or didn't happen. So pretty much saying, and the worst thing that ever happened in your life, you have to be grateful for it. And when you first encounter it, it's like, no,
Well,
I
yeah, like
don't.
why? You
Yeah,
know?
well, oh, that's the reason. So why? It's because as that worst thing that has happened to you, others have experienced as well in a different form. So let's just say you lost your mother. Well, now you have experience that you can take with you through the world so that whenever you meet someone else who has lost someone, you can say, "Hey, I lost my mother too. I know what you're going through. I'm here to talk if you need it." And you don't want that to happen. I don't want my parents dying. I don't want my friends dying. But in this sense, it gives you a greater empathy for others because you understand what they're going through. And also one his other reason, go look up his interview because
Yeah.
probably butchering all his arguments up. It's a beautiful interview. But another thing he says too is that how can you be grateful for everything else if you're not grateful for the thing that you least wanted to happen? So it's kind of like a bar. So it's like, okay, where's the bar of your gratefulness?
Hmm.
Is it just like all the good things? Okay, then you're not going to be grateful for any of the bad things or what you perceive as bad things. If you put a bar to the worst thing that has ever happened to you, then you're grateful for just life itself. You're grateful for existing in this world. So, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think a couple of things, right? So, you use an interesting example of losing a mother, right? And
Mm,
over the years, since I lost my mother, I lost her at 17. And
mhm,
um, I learned after a long time, right, of kind of grief and guilt, um, that sometimes when people are going through that similar thing, I find it best not to mention it. Like,
right.
I find it best to just listen, right? And to just not even mention that it happened to me. Because at the end of the day, their experience with their mother, while the overall macro event is relatable,
Mhm.
there's so many micro little nuances in there, right? People have different relationships with their mother. People have different relationships with themselves. Their mother could have passed in a different way than mine did. So in a lot of ways, that's why they say in funerals, when people are grieving, the last thing you want to say is, "Hey, I know what you're going through." You know what I mean? You kind of just say, "Hey, I'm sorry." You know what I mean? Or I'm here. And a lot of that is just tying, I think it's tying your identity to the event. So after a while, I stopped saying that, "Hey, like I lost my mother too. I know what you're going through," because I don't. I really don't know what they're going through. But I do know what it's like to grieve, and if, especially for a mother. So that is the relatable aspect of that. I'm able, because I've just learned through time that sometimes you don't need to talk about it. And it also heals yourself, right? The more I talked about it, the more I felt like I needed to talk about it, meant that I was just projecting it, meant that I was just not over it. And well, that's not something you're going to really get over, but you can have peace with it. And the less I talk about it, the more at peace of it I am after a while, right? So that's what I wanted to say about that. I know it's a weird way to say it, but
No, 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 I get it.
yeah, yeah. Like I talked about it a lot, but I feel like I wasn't talking about it in a healthy way. So, on understanding and moving along in the event of my life, being grateful that she even had time in this world and being happy with that time and not thinking about her death. That's how you move on. That's how you kind of just be grateful, right? And to the other point, being grateful no matter what the event is also, I think, a very important skill, man, because think about it. The worst thing in the world can happen to you and you still find something to be grateful for, that just means your mind is strong, right? You have a strong sense of life because you realize that just being alive, just going through something it means that you live, means that you're living. It means that you're growing as a person, right? It may sound pretty crazy to some people, but it really seriously, yeah, some people might be saying, yo, these two dudes, I'm done, man. They're crazy, but nah, it's true, right? There's always something to learn. There's always something to grow from. There's always something to be grateful for. And if anything, it's the memory to be grateful for, right? So
Mhm.
it's called like the silver lining. There's a positive to everything, as hard as it may seem.
And there's a negative to everything too.
Yeah, my mother unfortunately passed away, and I don't have her in my life anymore. But what I do have is her memory. And what I do have is the strength to help others who go through similar things. So
Mhm,
that's the positive, right?
mhm.
Um, and that's the thing, you never know what life would be like if something was different. You know what I mean? Like the what if, man, that is such a dangerous, dangerous road to go down. The what if
Yeah.
for everything, relationships, family, your presentation at work, your own business, your certain decisions. I mean, I don't know. Do you do this? Do you go in the shower and think of like 18 different ways you could have done something different? Because
Not
I do.
anymore, no.
I used to do that a lot, man.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
having those shower
yeah,
arguments, be
absolutely.
like, yeah, I could have said this, I could have, but I didn't. So why am I thinking
Mhm.
about it? You're just stressing yourself out, you know? Um, I don't know. You tell me, man. The what if?
Yeah, and so
What is the what if for you?
uh I talk about meditation a lot just because it has been so revolutionary in my life. So much of those what ifs kind of just through my act of trying to be present in the moment through meditation, much of those what ifs come into my mind and they kind of go away.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like what happened happened. What happened in the future hasn't happened. What is happening is right now. Granted, I also don't take a lot of hot showers. I always take cold showers.
That's
So
true.
it's like that's the last thing on my
You are not in there
mind.
stirring, that's for sure. Yeah, you're doing this, getting out. That's
Yeah.
you. That's you. Two
I
minutes.
do I go uh no, it's 60 Mississippi. That's what I do. 60
Wow.
Mississippi.
That's pretty good, actually.
But
That's yeah.
yeah, no, honestly, like once I finally like it's always I stand outside my shower and just look at it. It's not even like I don't want to be there. It's my body just doesn't want to be there. But once I get in and get going, like I go past 60 Mississippi. I'm just like chilling in there.
Hmm.
But it's also a different kind of cold than Boston or Germany cold. So
Because you're in
take that.
Yeah, man. I'm not
It's
gonna lie, man. Taking a cold
mm,
shower when it's like negative 8 degrees outside and your heat can't keep up. Well, that's tough. It's definitely a challenge.
mm.
But still, people do it, man. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh,
look at people up in the north, man. They be taking ice baths and freezing temp crazy. But you know what that is,
break the
man?
ice open.
That's
What was
strength.
that?
That's strength.
Hmm.
That's strength because you said it exactly. You pinned it exactly. You separated your body from your mind. And that's one of the
Hmm.
biggest things yoga teaches you. And because meditation is the biggest part of yoga, that and breath control.
Yeah.
But they always say, don't listen to your body. Just move your body. I mean, don't listen to your mind, just move your body. Because your mind will tell you you're tired. Your mind will tell you you're fatigued. Your mind will tell you, stop, you can't do this. You're tired, take a rest. But when you push past that and you continue working on your breath and you're just in the moment, your body can take you through a lot, man.
A lot. Hmm.
A lot. I mean, think about athletes, Olympians, the amount of training they have to do. You think Usain Bolt came out the womb fast? No, absolutely
That'd be
not.
funny though.
That probably would have been hilarious. Well, I'll tell you what he had. He had probably the perfect set of genetics. But that's the thing. If you don't train, how would you know how to
Mhm.
use them? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mhm.
I think of shout out to the Dragon Ball Z fans out there. I think of a scene in Dragon Ball Z where Captain Ginyu switches bodies with Goku because he saw that Goku was really strong. Come to find out, he couldn't use his body because he had no
No.
idea about the trials and tribulations he went through, the martial arts knowledge, the way he can bring out his spirit and his ki out of his body. So he was actually weak. He was super weak. And that's something to be said about only you know your body best, right? No one can take that from you. You know what I mean? Um, and that's how the mind and the body are separated because your body is its own mind. It holds on to information.
Yeah.
And if you don't train it, no matter how strong it may appear, you can't utilize its full potential. So it's crazy that when you came over and you came out, it was cold as hell outside, and you're like, "Yeah, I just took a cold shower." I looked at you, I was like, "This dude." I just said, "Hey, yo." I was impressed, man. I was like, "Wow." I was like, "That's strong, man. That's strength. Good for you."
A- And I mean, look, you could tell your for cold showers, you could tell yourself all the physical benefits because there's so many physical benefits. But I think for me, the best benefit is that training of the mind.
Yeah.
It's to over overrule what your body tells you and say, we're going to do this. And I, as you were talking, I I kind of think of my brain and body and myself as like the prime minister of my brain and my body. My body's going to tell me, give me information. My brain's going to give me information. But ultimately, I am the person who makes the judgment and makes the call on that. It
Yeah.
is not my body who's doing it. It's not my brain who's doing it. It's this thing we call consciousness. And if you allow your body to rule you, your body will rule you. If you allow your brain to rule you, it's going to rule you. And that's what cold showers do for me is bring me back to, no, I'm in charge. I get to do what I want. You guys give me information. Like, for example, whenever you put, I was so stupid. I put like an ice pack right on my skin, and I was having going through this time of just just recently of just like understanding my consciousness is able to give a lot of pain. So I just put it right there and I let it sit there. And my body's like screaming out, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, it hurts. It hurts." And I'm like, "Oh no, we're good, we're good, we're good." And then it started getting like pure numb. I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, what the hell?" and I look in and it's brown. It's like gray. I gave myself frostbite.
You did.
So
You crazy guy.
it's
You funny
crazy.
dude.
Hey, but here's that thing. Your body tells you information.
Yeah.
That's what that pain was. It was, hey, like this isn't good. Like
Yeah.
this isn't going well. You probably should get out of here. Same with anxiety too. It's anxiety is not a terrible thing. The thing is that in our hunter-gatherer society, anxiety was a way to protect you from dangerous threats, like snakes. It triggers anxiety so that you don't get bitten and die. But
Hmm.
now, since we're in such a safe and overconsumption environment, now we have to contend with our body's natural instinct to be anxious about the smallest things like public speaking and I don't know, talking to the cute girl at the bar, something like that.
Or like a random pain and
Yeah.
money and knowing that you have to go to the doctors and it could cost a lot of money depending on what's going on with you.
Hmm.
It's all these separate things. And
Yeah. And then,
depression, I kind of made me think that's just your body just not telling you anything. So, eh, for at least for me, right? So, because when I'm going through it, man, I just like I said, I don't feel anything. So it's I think that's the lack of response between body and mind that causes a ripple in your whole conscious being. So, but yeah, you were saying,
yeah. So I think there's two types of depression. The one you're talking about where, yeah, there's just something off. I don't know if it's biologically or what, but it's just there's a disconnection. I think my depression that I went through, and I think that a lot of others go through, is what I think we talked about this before with Jim Carrey, right? The
yeah,
deep rest.
yeah.
Okay. And so just to let
Uh-oh, I lost you, man. I can't hear you. Yo, can't hear you. Let me send him in the chat.
that was my depression.
You got to
That
say
was
that all again, my brother,
okay.
because
Really, what happened?
there was no sound coming from you, man. I was
What?
practicing my lip reading exercises to see what
Oh,
you were saying, but I didn't know what you were saying.
okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. So start where you
Okay.
said in your case, depression. You talk about Jim Carrey. When as soon as you mentioned Jim Carrey, it went out. So would you?
Oh, okay, okay. Hey, so we talked about. I can't believe I said all that. You were just looking at me like
I'm
an
just like, dude, I can't hear you, man.
idiot.
I was just, all right, what's he saying? What's he saying? Read them lips.
Oh, this
The
is
CIA
practice. This is
training is
practice.
CIA training, FBI training is coming in handy right now.
So, yeah, so I said the first depression, that biological. Oh, and then I think there's a second type of depression that Jim Carrey talks about. And we talked about this before, right? The deep rest
Yep.
about, okay. Hey, so I'll just reiterate it again for the audience over time. So, oh, I think there's a different kind of depression that uh, whenever your body and brain don't like the person that you are anymore or the person you are presently, it starts to shut down. It
Yeah.
starts to say, I don't like the person that you are. I don't like the where you're going. I'm not working for you. And that's the depression I went through and I noticed is that I push myself to go to the gym like once or twice a week, but I would have no energy at all, nothing at all. And it was that feeling of, hey, you're not getting this stuff down. And especially whenever I did my writing, I've told you this before, but I wrote 3 hours a day, read 2 hours a day for 7 years of my life. And during that time of depression, I could slowly see the writing slip away from me from 3 hours, 2 hours to an hour to 30 minutes, 15 to nothing. And now I think it was my body, mind, and maybe even my soul saying this is not who you are. This is not your authentic self. If you keep going down this path, and you're probably going to go kill yourself, and you're going to kill all of us too. I mean, the body and the brain, stuff like that. All right. So that's what I think. There's two different kind of depressions, and unfortunately, for people who are depressed, you're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. No one can tell you oh yeah, it's biological. Oh yeah, it's just you're not feeling very well today. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
no. Oh, it's because not it's not your authentic self. It's you can have people help you, but ultimately you're gonna have to figure that out yourself.
Yeah, and it starts small, right?
Mhm.
I say, because this helped me when I was going through my, I would say, 8 month depression of when I was 28, 27, 28, and one thing a day, just one thing. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's taking a shower, eating something, or doing or occupying your time with something, right? The hustler heads will be like, nah, man, you're wasting your life. Well, guess what, dude, we all have problems, man. We got to get through it somehow. So sometimes just doing one thing, which is kind of interesting because in Seneca, it talks about how we often identify ourselves with everything we do, right? We have like our job. There was, I don't remember exactly which section it was, but it talks about how we're not our job. We're not, the luxuries in our life, right? We shouldn't tie ourselves to those things. Really, we don't need 80% of the things in our life, right?
Yeah.
There's probably three things we really need: water, food, and air. And that's it. Like, to be honest, yeah, that's it. That's all we need. So in that moment, at least for me, just doing one thing, which would be just cleaning myself or having something to eat or just getting out of bed, is enough, right? It's enough. It's kind of like it's kind of like you're injured. You broke a bone and you're
Like
slowly putting your steps back until you can walk again or use that part of your body again. But it's for the mind, right? It's for your whole
you
being.
broke
It's for
some of
your
your
whole being.
soul. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for your soul. So I always tell people, man, if you're going through it, yo, just take it one step at a time, and and as long as you do something, right? And if you don't do anything, don't beat yourself up for it because you're still breathing, you're still here, which means you have a chance, right? But it's sad, man, because there was a death recently. I don't know this person, but a friend of mine lost somebody. And I heard from them that this individual, young man too, in his 30s, he was he was unemployed. He wasn't working out. He let his body go. He was de and he died just randomly one day. But I don't think he killed himself, but I think his body did. And that's sad, man. Because it's like, yo, that person, I thought about him. I was like, that person probably was sad, man. He was depressed. And his body, he was slowly killing himself without realizing it. And then eventually his body just gave out because of just the pain. It's a sad, sad thing, right? But it happens to a lot of men, especially a lot of men. I've talked to guys who I didn't even know tried to commit suicide, like, but they were close to me. They were my friends. I had no idea until I opened up and they opened up. So I don't know, man. Look for your men's groups out there, man. Women also go through it, but women are much better at communicating than we are.
Being vulnerable,
Being vulnerable, having
and that's
community.
yeah.
We got to take a page out of that book.
Well, talk about being strong. At least for a man, you always think. growing up, you always think strong is robust. It's not letting anything get to you.
Hmm.
But being strong is being one aspect of being strong is being vulnerable,
Yeah.
being able to show all your weaknesses, everything that happened to you, and allowing yourself to open up to the world. Because by doing that, you allow all sorts of attacks to happen. And if you're someone who is able to accept those as they are, that makes you strong. Hiding them doesn't make you strong. Thinking you can overcome them doesn't make you strong. It's confronting them that makes you strong. And one other thing, did I tell you about the Auschwitz prisoner before?
Yeah.
About okay, about the where he died because he didn't believe loss of hope and stuff like that.
Yeah. But say it
Yeah,
again. Say it again. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Explain it.
So in Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, they're in Auschwitz, the concentration camp, and one of these prisoners comes up to him and says, "Hey, the Americans are going to save us March 30th." And he says, "Okay." The prisoner, March 29th comes. He's doing great. He has very robust, very energetic. March 29th comes, Americans aren't here, starts getting sick. Hey, March 30th, he's bedridden, goes unconscious. March 31st comes, he's dead. And they said sickness, some kind of sickness. But like you were saying, the body just gave up.
Yeah.
The body, the person believed that there was no hope up left, or there was as no chance he could get himself out of the camps. And that was at such a deep and unconscious level that his body also agreed. His brain also agreed and just shut down and died and let that thing, even his immune system, that's why he died, right? His immune system stopped working practically, at least I see it, and allowed sickness come in. So that relates to what you were talking about too. And I can one thing the book I'm writing right now is just about belief
Yeah.
because what I'm noticing is it starts with the beliefs within yourself of how you perceive yourself. If you don't un understand that, or you don't have a good, strong foundation in that, you're setting yourself up for, sorry to say, suicide later on because you don't understand your identity, you don't understand yourself, you maybe you don't believe you're good enough at all. I was re listening to Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke, really good one, by the way. But she talked about her patients, how at the they so these patients super addicted to like sex, drugs, uh, alcohol, but at the end of their or like route, when they're facing suicide, almost each one of them didn't the reason why they were committing suicide because they didn't believe they were live worth or anything anymore. They didn't think they were worthy of being even a human being anymore. So for me, it's that's what I hope to accomplish with my book that I'm writing. No plug-in or
Don't
anything
worry,
like
we'll get there when
that.
you're ready to release, man. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. But uh, that's what I want people to understand is like it starts with the beliefs you have about yourself.
Right.
And once you get over then you can start making actions to become someone who is reputable, let's say.
Yeah. It's that's why, this that story kind of reminds me of a little bit of what the Bible teaches, right? That dude put his entire spirit and soul on man, on the promise of man, on the promise of flesh, on the promise of human beings,
Mm.
which is why he was so disappointed, right? Because we're imperfect. We can't always be there. We can't always be the answer, right? So they talk about that's why you put
Humans are flawed.
yeah, we're flawed out the ass, man. Where we have so many flaws, yo. There's so many things that we just don't do right or just don't have a grasp on and don't and still and won't for a long time, right? But um that's why they say put your faith in God, Christ, or whatever your religion is, whatever you believe in, right? That's where you put your faith in. Because that is a infallible, that's infallible. Probably because in a lot of ways it's purely spiritual. It's purely spiritual. It's not physical. Um, but when it comes to but that and that's the thing though. Being depressed when you don't have that, and then being depressed when you do have that, it still isn't easy because you almost
Oh,
forget.
yeah.
You pretty much sometimes forget where to put your focus, your faith, your spiritual strength, your hope, right? You just put it on, damn, I can't wait. I just need to get out of this. Or wow, or you don't have any. You just feel miserable. You feel horrible. It's like it's a living death, you know? It's a living death. Um, it's just involuntary dying, like brain wise, right? Your mood, your own emotions are killing you. Your nervous system is shutting down, and you don't know why. You have no idea why. And then I talk to people who have horrible health issues, heart failure, and they can't even walk right, and they're the happiest people you could ever meet. Why? Gratefulness of life. That's the strength. Being grateful. Especially when you were talking about being vulnerable. Being vulnerable is just being grateful for your own life. Being grateful for your
Inadequacies, yeah.
for your inadequacies, being grateful that you're human, being grateful that you have things that aren't perfect, but that makes you alive, that makes you a person. You're not you're not a robot, you know? As much as sometimes corporate America tries to make us into robots, it's just not going to happen. We're not robots. We're not machines. So, and then finding people that listen to you and accept that is even better. Who also because they're also grateful. They love people. That's love. That's love. And that's tough for men to find, to express is love, myself included. That's a whole nother topic, though. The topic of love, that's a whole
No,
nother thing, man.
I love that topic. Well, first off, like I forgot to mention, like if you're ever going through with something like that, again, just call me up. It doesn't need to be for like this long or this.
Oh yeah,
Just let me know you're doing okay. And if
appreciate
you
it,
want to
man.
talk,
Thank
then
you. You as well.
oh, I know it's not easy, whenever you are in those situations, but just know like you have to have someone to call. So
Appreciate it, man. You too, man. Seriously, it
yeah.
helps to have someone you can talk to at any time. It really makes a difference.
Oh yeah.